I grew up watching a lot of kung fu movies, a lot of karate movies, everything from 36 Chambers to Return of the 36 Chambers, the Five Deadly Venoms, the Return of the Five Deadly Venoms. I mean, the you go on and on whether it was Bruce Lee, David Chang, it didn't matter. I mean, every Saturday at 3 o'clock, it was on the drive-in theater. And it's crazy because now that as I'm older, I still have a huge affinity for specifically epic Chinese movies, which is a slightly different genre. They're generally based on like the Qing dynasty or one of the ancient dynasties in China. And one of the things that's a common theme is their affinity, their adherence to these to respect and to authority. I mean, terms like filial, like son or children's obligations to parents, bowing to governing authorities, whether it's governmental or just classifications in a household. There's this great adherence to this code of respect. And you see that not just in the movies, but you also see that throughout the martial arts world, which is very Asian influenced, whether it's in an Asian institution or not. I know growing up, I took some martial arts classes, and it wasn't in a dojo that was run by. It was just a dojo in a city, and there's this adherence, there's this code of honor, of respect, which then also required discipline. You look at our military, you look at our police forces, you look at any setting, corporate, family or otherwise, a success. There's a code. Which is basically a map or a guide on behaviors and how one is to conduct themselves with peers, with subordinates, with so to say superiors, and so forth. And I guess my affinity towards these movies was, I don't know where it bred from, but I guess I so appreciated the respect that people had for one another, but then the heightened sense that they had for their superior excuse me, their superiors, their parents. But there was just general respect, even amongst enemies. I respect you, but I totally, I'm going to beat you up. I'm going to take your heart, whatever the case may be. But there was a time not long ago where I remember growing up, that I was required to call all adults by Mr., Mrs., Doctor, or another salutation. I'm greeting all elders verbally with or with an embrace when I walked into a room. There was none of this. I'm just walking into the room doing what I'm going to do and I'm going to leave. Give up a chair to any woman in a place where there was no seat and I was sitting. We used to tip a hat. A guy to walk in a room, walk in a door without holding it open for a woman, unacceptable. Greetings. Just simply greeting folks. But, respecting people, but also respecting places. I know I attended the University of Virginia, Wahoo, and we don't call it a campus, it's called the grounds. And there's a certain place on the grounds you don't walk across, you have to walk around. And that's not unique to there, but that's just an example. Certain places you have to show respect to. You respect your peers. You don't talk, while you're all watching a movie, during a movie. You're not supposed to, at least. We respect the Sabbath by resting and reflecting. Respect is biblical. It's mentioned 45 times in NIV translation. Honor, which is great or heightened respect, is mentioned 147 times. So between the two, you got almost 200 mentions of respect or heightened respect in the Bible. Why is it important? Why is respect important? Respect is the glue of society. Without it, we have no relationships that can advance. We have no boundaries. We have no civility. Therefore, we have no civilization. Respect is required by God. Honor, and you can add the noun after that. In other words, respect the player as well as respect the game. Now, I wanted to address this issue because we're in a change of seasons. This week, children across the world, across the country at least, started back to school. And over the next couple of weeks, everything from elementary school through college will return to some sort of schooling, whether it be in or out. And it was interesting this week, I was talking to my kids just about some of their experiences in the spring with online school. And the first thing that came out of their mouths was the disrespect that a lot of these kids were showing the teachers, whether everything from talking over them to, to cursing to just doing some other abhorrent behaviors. And what it just kind of shed light on is the continued degradation of respect in our society. At the basis of this, if you take nothing else, I want you to remember this. Remember this. Me, James Rudolph Andrews II, am created in the image of God. So treat me like it. You, who or whatever your name is created in the image of God. So you should be treated like it. At the end of the day, that's what respect is. You should be treated as important. You should be valued. So in everything, do to others what you want them to do to you. For this sums up the law of the prophets, the law and the prophets. Quoted by Jesus. So do in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you. What is respect? That's it. Honor. Honor in the Bible means esteem, value, or greatly respect. To honor someone is to value him highly or bestow upon them great value. So why is this important? Well, the Bible exhorts us to express honor and esteem towards certain people, specifically our parents. No matter what your age, your parents. It's the coolest thing when I see someone that's like 65 helping their 89, 90-year-old parent out or sitting down eating. That's like crazy cool to me. One, just because they've been able to enjoy that much life together. But it just shows that no matter how far you've gotten, you can still report to, or you can still, so to say, bow down to someone else. And that's great. But so our parents, the aged, and those in authority. I mean, we can go straight to the text. But we understand that all authority and honor is something we got to understand. All authority and honor belong to God alone. But, he delegates his power and his authority to others. Peter tells us to honor all people, love the brotherhood, fear God, honor the king. Again, honor all people, okay? Honor all people, love the brotherhood. So love all people, honor all people, love all people, fear God, and honor the king. The idea of honoring others, especially those in authority, comes from the fact that they represent God's ultimate authority, right? And so a classic example is the command to submit to the governing authorities because they have been established by God. Even in the midst of getting ready to be crucified, Christ was in major disagreement with Pontius Pilate. But never once was he disrespectful. He disagreed, but he was never disrespectful. So don't mistake disagreeing with being disrespectful, okay? There's a way to disagree. The Bible speaks, though, of another noteworthy group of people who were deserving of double honor. The leadership of the church, the so-called elders. Let the elders who rule well be considered worthy of double honor, especially those who labor in preaching and teaching. In the first century church, some elders labored in word and doctrine by devoting their time to preaching and teaching, while others did so privately. However, all elders gave attention to the interests of the church and the welfare of its members. They took care of giving the sermon, so to say, giving the message, but they also took care of the people. So they were deserving of double respect because they sacrificed of themselves for others. This was specifically significant in the New Testament, right? Because there was no written Bible at the time. So these men at the time, primarily, they were charged with passing on the message of God as well as taking care of the people. But what's happened? Where are we at now? Well, the information age has made us technologically able to reach a whole lot of folks, right? Information is out there beyond what we can grasp. But it's put technology at the forefront of communication. And though we are more connected, we are so much less personal and a lot less personable. Between packed schedules, juggling school, work, and friends, in addition to reaching people through cyberspace, has become the main mode of communication. Manners have somehow been forgotten. Manners have somehow been forgotten. Instead of treating our elders with appreciation and respect, the appreciation and respect they deserve, many are often too busy or simply dismiss them and their contributions to our families, our communities and society. Now, biblically speaking, we're told to honor one another, right? And there are a number of examples: employer, employee. Um, hmm, the one that we think of most: love, honor, and obey. Those are part of most of our vows, right? The relationship between husband and wife in submission to and honoring one another. Hebrews 13:4, Ephesians 5:23 through 33. Interestingly enough, of all the commandments to honor one another, the most often repeated pertains to honoring one's mother and father. I happen to have a mother and father. I happen to be a father. And this is extremely important to me, going both ways. As I defer to my parents, my kids are to defer to me. And one day, God willing, their kids will defer to them, as it shall go on in the future, as it's been in the past. This command was so important to God that if anyone struck or hit their parents, he was put to death. Yeah, Exodus 21:7. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. At the core, that's what respect is. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. Romans 12:10. So I said all of this, but just a clear definition of what respect is. I mean, yeah, honor one another above yourself, deference, hold in high regard, have value. But just real basically, the word respect in the Bible, translated from in the Greek, means temisate, meaning honor or value. It literally means to place a great value or high price on something. If you place a great value on something, you treat it with care. You take care of it. You pay attention to it. If you respect the law, you abide by it. If you respect your teacher, you listen attentively. Soldiers salute their leadership. Around the world, men show respect by shaking hands, dapping up, bowing, giving a head nod. Not necessarily that aggressively, but giving a quick nod. Further said, without respect, what is there to distinguish men from beasts? Now, I want to keep this simple. I don't want to go off talking about how society has lost all respect, because in some ways it's obvious. Our discourse is sullied with profanities towards one another, name-calling, ignoring others' needs, venom. And because of this ugliness, that ugliness, our societal breakdown is pretty evident, and the importance of respect is accentuated. Lack of respect prevents us from coming into an agreement, coming into accord. Now, respect is important because it guides how civilized people act. Let me say that again. Respect is important because it guides how civilized people act. When you don't demonstrate respect, you put yourself out as uncivilized. When we respect someone or something, we give it consideration, pay attention to it, hold it in high regard, right? I said that a second ago. If it's a commandment, we obey it. If it's a leader of some sort, we hold them, we accord them deference. If it's another person, we accord them such dignity as people should be given in their position. We don't just tolerate them, but even if we disagree with them, we may still embrace them. Quick side note. We may not agree with those we respect. As a matter of fact, you can very highly respect someone and very adamantly disagree with them. We can disagree with their opinions, their choices, and their lifestyle, but respect them. Respect is how you treat people, including those you disagree with. Respect has never meant to agree, but it means to acknowledge. Respect is never meant to disagree, but it means to acknowledge. To be one, to be united is a great thing, but to respect the right to be different is maybe even greater. That was said by this wise, sinner, Bono. To be one, to be united is a great thing, but to respect the right to be different is maybe even greater. Never take a person's dignity. It's worth everything to them and nothing to you. Be more humble than a blade of grass. Blade of grass gets blown everywhere, gets trampled on. More tolerant than a tree. Got trees in my backyard that have got to be hundreds of years old. They've dealt with all forms of weather and still rise. Always offering respect onto others and never expecting anything in return. Respect isn't what you do, for you, it's what you do for others. How do you demonstrate this respect? This huge term. Look people in the eye. People are easily distracted. But stop. Stop what you're doing. Look at someone when you're engaged in conversation. Put down your phone. What is going on out there will still be there when your interaction is over. Acknowledge people. One of my children has mastered this. She's awesome with this. But teach your children, teach the child, teach people, period, that people deserve to be acknowledged when they come to your home. Teach them to stand up and greet people who enter your home or enter a room. And teach them how to start a conversation by hello, hi, some sort of salutation. How are you doing today? Not just jumping in with what they have to say. Patience. Slow down. Acknowledge people. Don't interrupt. Sometimes what you have to say does not, it does need to wait a moment. Recognize the importance of what other people are doing. An example is teaching a person, or actually and I keep coming back to this but teaching a child to put their hand or arm on your shoulder and wait for a pause in a conversation to say, excuse me, and politely enter a conversation instead of just bursting in or interrupting. Using manners and always be polite. People should learn to speak respectfully to one another, especially adults. You're never too old to say yes, ma'am, no, sir. Of course, learning to say please and thank you is a must, always. Ma'am and sir, it may not be in style, but it's right. I've never heard someone say, man, they're just too respectful and been in the right or been serious. But I've definitely heard folks be referred to as that they're disrespectful. That's never a compliment, never a good description. No means no, and stop means stop. Understand that no means no, stop means stop. And I don't mean just in dating or, in interpersonal terms, but just in, whether you're sharing objects, someone's space. Don't embarrass someone, even if they're wrong. Sometimes people get their proverbial rocks off by saying, I got them, I showed them. But respectfully disagree with folks, especially teachers and those in authority. Let them know that if you disagree, that you can let someone know that you disagree with them respectfully. There is a time, a place, a form, F-O-R-M, and a forum, F-O-R-U-M, for disagreements. It never includes an in-class argument. It can be an in-class discussion to a point, but it never includes arguments or demonstrations of your opinion. Showing I'm right and I'm just going to stand on being right. That's about one of the dumbest things I hear people say sometimes, because even if you're right, you can be wrong in your demonstration on how you demonstrate you're right. Right doesn't mean right now. It means right resolution. Help others as occasions arise. Anticipate and respond to the needs of others is a simple thing. Holding doors for others. Let someone go in front of you. And I don't mean just like walking, but, think of that. That's in large part what respect is, letting others go in front of you, deferring. Generally treating people well, whether they're at home or in public. And remember, the golden rule, all people are important and should be treated like such, with dignity and respect. Respect the player and the game.